Bitcoin once again finding itself on the absolute tip of the preface of a very precarious place.
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let.
Well. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Wish you a nice and happy and very peaceful Wednesday morning over here from a bright and sunny since 3 a.m. Helsinki, Finland. It's getting absolutely insane right now, and soon enough, it's going to be bright all fucking day. Anyways, I am still dealing with massive amounts of computer issues, so I do want to apologize for all the people who I've been taking a little bit of time to respond to. I'm doing my best here. I promise I will get back when I can, but right now, it's all focused on the task at hand, as that's actually going to open up a lot of other things to focus on in the future. So one thing before the next. Anyways, of course, I should also say that I have been uploading videos to my new channel, my gaming channel. Of course, I understand that that's not for everyone. Please do not feel obliged or obligated or whatever word that I'm looking for to go over and check it out. But if that type of thing does interest you, especially if you're interested in strategy gaming, definitely go check out my channel on YouTube, Total Krown. Maybe I'll have a link in the description right here as well. And what else do we want to talk about? Let's talk about some Bitcoin. Let's talk about some magic and money business, as I am just one cup of coffee deep today, and it's definitely showing. Where's my speech coming from? Anyways, looking at the Krown Trading application, which can be found at app.krowntrading.net and is free, so take advantage of it. We do see that open interest still on the precipice of that tip of the iceberg type of movement in the way that I look at it, and I'm still looking for the same sort of levels, a little bit above about around 100 million added in open interest, plus a breach of one of the critical levels for the higher term timeframes. We'll describe those levels in a bit once we get into the actual charts. But I want to see it shoot up at the very least above 950 million and preferably $1 billion to really confirm this next sort of phase in the market, whether it be to the upside or the downside. I need to see that accompanied by a major move above one of the critical levels, again, to the upside or the downside. We'll talk about those critical levels soon here. But the thing is that is very key to this one right now. As long as we are kind of caught between this no man's land of 750 million and about 900 to 950 million, we don't really have resolution on anything other than the short and medium term timeframes, and that has been Bitcoin's sort of behavior in the past, that it does like to confirm major breakouts or breakdowns with that sort of a read or a signature, I should say. Anyways, Bitcoin dominance more or less steady here, 67%, which I am still bullish on overall. I remember looking at that chart yesterday, so it's quite literally not even moved, which means that the analysis is more or less the same. Crypto fear and greed index actually did take up to a 52, so people getting a little bit more greedy, it looks like, although we aren't in the green territory just yet. I'd still consider this more or less neutral. It is interesting, and it has been the most, to be honest, accurate indicator for the past couple months, as that was telling us that this market's climbing the wall of worry as it is right now, and that does lead into the bullish boner bias. So with that said, let's actually look at the actual price action analysis charts right here. And what do we see on the good old, I guess I'm on the 2-day right here. But, to go through it all, all again, because really, realistically, very little has changed. Just Bitcoin keeps on grinding up this area, which is typically very bullish. When you grind up an area, it's not always going to be bullish, but if you grind it, on a top side of resistance, yes, that typically is bullish. You typically don't get multiple chances to sell the ultimate high or the ultimate low, and Bitcoin would be a little bit too generous here to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even working on a 5th attempt to sell that $10,000 level. And looking at all the major movement averages, especially on the higher term timeframes, this looks good to me. I do see that we have a golden cross still getting more and more divergence away from each other. It is slow, but that is good. That is good constructive behavior. And putting in that secondary higher low above the 200x, not the 200x benchmark average, although it was above the 200. I'm talking about the 200 simple right here. The white moving average was also good historically speaking as well. Anytime that Bitcoin is operating above that level and it does have a positive slope, Bitcoin's more or less bullish. And anytime that Bitcoin is below it and also it has a negative slope, those are your long-term bear markets. And that's been working pretty damn well since the genesis. And as you can see right here, coming down to test this level as it gets a golden cross, as all major moving averages gain more and more divergence away from each other. That does suggest that this cross is strengthening and that the bots and algos are on the on the buy side of that. So looking at this right here, I want to match this up with momentum oscillators, of which we do see 2-day Stokes looking like they want to curl back up using the critical zone as support, which is actually very common as well and typical to happen at a major precipice. And if we look at the reverse inverse Stochastic indicator cross, we do see that that's going to remain to the upside. So it will naturally cross the upside, confirmed actually tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, as long as Bitcoin price actually remains above 92.23. Now, of course, have we always seen more of a crazy move than $500 in about a day? Yes, absolutely. But as it is right now, my bias is to the upside here. I think that Bitcoin being resilient in this region is actually strength. And as long as we're above, especially the same pivot that we were talking about the last couple of days, 9,300 on a daily closing basis, I'm not bearish. There's nothing bearish. There's really no reason to be bearish as long as we're above that $9,300 pivot, mostly just because that maintains the daily trend. Also the 2-day trend by extension, also the 12-hour trend by extension, and pretty much all the lower time frames as well, until we get down to like the very low ones, like the 4-hour and below, which we could probably come up with a little bit of an earlier area than that. Yes, I believe I was using 9,500 yesterday. I would still stick with that today. And what do you know, on the lower term timeframes, we are contracting very heavily on historical volatility percentile. I do still think that this suggests that we're going to take a little bit longer to actually resolve the complete range. But as far as looking at this right here, we are actually having a positive slope on the moving average for this, which does suggest that once we get back down into the single digits, I would be looking for another short-term move to at the very least test the top side or the bottom side of the short-term range. And the short-term range right now would be between about 9,500 and to the downside and about 10,000 to the upside for like a 4-hour time frame. And looking at momentum oscillators on top of that, we do see that 4-hour Stokes are crossing back up and also rejecting getting below even the edge of the bearish control zone, which is rather good. And we do see that that's actually going to stay to the upside as long as Bitcoin price action is above 9,700. Where is 9,700? Well, that's right above our last little prior swing low right here on the 4-hour time frame. So even the lower term time frames are now building that stair-stepping case alongside the higher term time frames. So you're getting the confluence between everything right now, which typically does make up some pretty damn high probability trades. Now, looking at the 3-hour, what do we see here? We do see 96.80. As long as we are above there, that is going to maintain lower term time frame momentum oscillators to the upside. Same thing with RSI. But we're pretty much right there right now. Just want to see that maintain above the exponential there too. And same thing on historical volatility percentile, although a little bit less of an obvious read there. But that is the volume going through the lower term timeframes. They should naturally line up. However, sometimes they do not, and usually that's tip off that we're going to be doing some ebbs and flows. But right now it's looking rather set up. Yesterday, remember, they were all kind of coming down with the 4-hour being a little bit of an oddball. Now they're all kind of popping up from the same area, rejecting the edge of rejecting the bearish control zone and popping back out. This is your 2-hour right here. 2-hour RSI looks constructive as well, kind of cradling it out. And again, trend is trying to put in a higher low right here. So just playing that is simple enough, and well, looks good to me actually. So looking at the hourly, same thing here too, crosses back up to the upside above 97.30. And we got plenty of room here as well, kind of getting coiled up in the neutral zone, which is usually indicative that we are going to see a breakout relatively soon. Looking at the hourly historical volatility percentile, we are back into the single digits. So this is going to naturally transpire into the higher time frames on top of that, build up that next case. And I do think that we're probably going to be looking at a break probably in the next day or two, very, very likely. I think even this next day is rather likely. If bulls are going to take control, I think that they do it today or tomorrow. If bear is going to take control, well, that's a little bit more of a difficult one. I'd rather go by levels for that. But I would say that, more like if we were to hesitate here for another week or two, that would be considered bearish. Most likely. And below 9,300, that's a big red flag. Below 9,500 is a short-term red flag, and at the very least will lead towards a test towards about 9,300. Personally speaking, though, I don't think that we'd stop there. I do think that we'd ultimately come back down a little bit below 9,000 to 88 to 8,900-ish region. But for right now, when we do go through the medium-term timeframes, like the 12-hour, we still see that momentum is to the upside right here, although it is waning a little bit. So that is a major consideration. And what do you know? Where does momentum remain to the upside for the 12-hour now? It's kind of like a do or die situation here. It's 9,800. What is 9,800? Well, that's just continuing the trend, making, would be closing on a higher high right here, I suppose, as our last closing high was just a few ticks below there. So that would remain not only the momentum also to the upside, but also maintaining trend as well, trend structure, that is. And on top of that, we do see historical volatility percentile is incredibly low. So this is cooked. This is ready for a move. And we're seeing now confluence between the lower term timeframes and the medium term timeframes, which 12-hour historical volatility percentile is going to correlate with a very nasty move, typically speaking. Anytime that you get into the single digits, I mean, just to give you an example, last time that we got into single digits was right here before this nice move to the upside. Time before that we got into the single digits was right here before this, what was this, like a $3,500 move to the upside as well. You get the point. So not only that, we also are kind of maintaining above the exponential on the RSI, although it's not as obvious of a read here as well. So it's not as helpful, but realistically, the way that it's lining up and the way that I see it right now is that as long as we are maintaining that higher low structure at about 9,500, I am still bullish on short-term, medium-term, and long-term timeframes. Below 9,300, I would switch around my below 9,500, I switch around my short-term buys to bearish, looking for a move down at the very least to 93. Personally speaking, I don't think that we stop there. I do think it would transpire into a medium-term move all the way down to about 88 to 8,900 region, somewhere down around here, around the 4-hour 200, which is actually, it's actually about $100 lower than that. It's about 8750-ish region, of which that's where the higher term timeframes can change. As you remember, that is likely, if I had to guess right now, that is likely where our long-term support trend line is coming in from the 4,400 dump on March 13th right here. And yes, indeed, we do see that it actually is coming in right around this level, a little bit lower than that actually, depending upon when price action would actually approach it at, but naturally as time goes on, that level will rise up, and actually soon enough it will be around that 9,100-ish level. So perhaps at 9,300 is actually just less of important than this guy right here, just because they're so close together. $200 delta between them is not really, it's not much of an edge, to be honest. And realistically, I do, like I said, I do think that if Bitcoin came back down to about 9,300, we probably would end up have an initial bounce maybe to the upside, but ultimately end down here. This is where really the medium and the higher term timeframes can actually start to change. I'd say that this would be your first major warning flag with any sort of a 4-hour delta closure below here, which is about 9,100. Technically speaking, could Bitcoin turn around at the next major area down here at about 85? Yeah, possible, but I don't think that would be very likely. It is also the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement. So if Bitcoin were to break down from here, there likely will be bounces along the way. But personally speaking, I don't think I would look at this as a massive fake out here, and we're probably going to come back down to low 7,000, 7,100, 7,200-ish region, and then potentially put in a bottom right there. I'd want to see that one in real time, but realistically, as long as Bitcoin's riding this trend line, I remain pretty much bullish on all time frames, with 9,500 as a short-term pivot, 93 technically as a medium-term pivot, but this is really not that helpful right now, and 9,100 as the main area right now, actually. If Bitcoin does break that, like I said, I would look for an overall tipping over effect. Probably not going to happen in just one day, but over time, yes, I do think so. Bitcoin bulls have a chance right now to actually really do some serious damage. So let's talk about that for a second, because they're actually a lot closer than the bears right now are. And looking at it right here, we do see that on a 4-hour time frame, we do see that this is kind of wedging itself into an ascending triangle. Now, am I skeptical of an obvious pattern being printed into the books? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But at the end of the day, if there's any patterns that do typically work well in Bitcoin land, it's triangles, channels, and triangles and channels for the most part. Triangles and channels for the most part, and to a lesser extent, actually head and shoulders do have a decent probability of hitting. But I believe, going off my friend's quant firm's research in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin specifically, they showed that triangles, as opposed to other, just triangles in general, have about a little bit over 70% efficacy. And I actually did review the notes that he sent me a while ago, last night, and I believe that is actually around there for what they found. So that's actually pretty damn good, especially when it comes to patterns, because they're usually below 40%. So it's not even really playable, to be honest with you. That's why most pattern traders I don't really find to be all that interesting, although it can work, and there's definitely some great guys out there doing it, but I usually find that it's usually misguided. Anyways, so more importantly, because we do have that in the lower time frames right here, we could make a measure move based upon that. If Bitcoin were to break out, let's call it above 9,900, any sort of a 4-hour delta closure above there, yes, I would target a move towards 10.4 to 10.5. Where does that area correlate with? Well, that area correlates with the next major blue box territory that we have, basically right at our last prior high in February 13th. at around 10,400 to 10,500. Also the major rejection that we saw off of the China news in late October in 2019. And also this, or sorry, not the 618 Fibonacci retracement. That's actually where we are right now. But also if we were to throw on the volume profile, that is a major area of interest as well. As you can see, that's kind of like the last of the Mohicans for this high value node area right here. So above there, it's a big change, but that also suggests that if Bitcoin does come up and, pop up and test it, probably does pull back on the first pass, at least on the shorter term time frames. That also would suggest, like I just said though, any sort of a higher term time frame closure above there, or even short term time frame closure above there, 10.5 that is, or just even taking out this prior high right here at about 10,500 on Mexico, and I'd be looking for actually another $1,000 move to the upside, about 11,500. That's where the macro gets involved though. That's where the macro gets involved. If Bitcoin can actually even maintain a weekly closure above 11.5, that's going to be a massive change of behavior from all of this institutional order flow ridden areas that we've seen ever since January 2018, coming in on the major 50% dump from what was this, 12,000 to 6,000 right here, double top in February, a month later at 12,000 or 11,500 once again. Then our major rejection in July 2019, coming off that $14,000 parabolic run. Then again 2 months later in August. And if Bitcoin were to close above there, you can see not just from that area just kind of being marked off, but also from a volume from a volume profile perspective, it's just a massive change of behavior above that region. And that's at the point where, I'm just generally bullish. I'm really not interested in shorts at that point because I mean, you can make money with shorts. Absolutely. The market's just not going to go just straight up, but you can make the game easy for yourself or hard on yourself. And the game's already hard enough. So I'd be just massively biased to the long side, looking for targets 16,000, 20,000 beyond. Maybe we'll come to that when, if and when it does happen. But for right now, higher term timeframes are shaping up very well here. Weekly, as we've been speaking about, hey, get off there, you fuck. Weekly, as we've been speaking about, showing major moving average, switching into bullish posture right here. I want to see the 10 simple get above both these guys right here as well. But just as it is with the yellow 21, supporting price action and also maintaining a positive slope. I mean, that's been your bull markets ever since the genesis of Bitcoin. Anytime Bitcoin's price action is above it plus positive slope, good. Keeps you in, in these long form moves right in over here and right in over here, and keeps you in the downside moves, in the same diabolical way. On top of that, we do see that it's crossing to the upside of the 55. So I do, that's just adds on to the efficacy of it. Anytime that we've had this cross in the past, generally good things have happened. You do see that this one right here is found by a test of the 10 simple, and then about a 2x in price action from 7,000 to 14,000. This one over here led us all the way from December 2015 at about $300 to 20,000 a few years later, and before that, pretty much took us the whole way on that first major rally. So very, 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 very interesting. And of course, momentum oscillators are pointing north here still. Weekly Stokes got plenty of room. Weekly RSI looks more or less good after breaking out of the long-term falling wedge, which is actually better seen on CMEs right here. You can see a perfect retest, and so far so good. But I really want to see it actually boost up. I do not want to see any sort of move back down below this region, of which I think we already plotted out. It's at a 55 right here. So as long as the weekly on CMEs is closing above 93.50, I still remain bullish based upon this as well. And yes, I do put weight on formations in RSI, not so much on price action actually. Looking at CMEs as well looks more or less good to me. Looking at daily here, golden, we've already gone over the golden cross a million fucking times. You know what I'm gonna say with that. You know what I'm gonna say. It's still there. It's still there. It's still there in front of your very eyes. Daily's got it, 12 hours got it, all lower time frames got it, and even a 2-day has it right now. What about a 3-day? I think the 3-day never even got death crossed, and that's exactly right. And the 3-day has a fold-on bullish display of all major moving averages here. All lower periods trading above higher periods, plus momentum oscillators looking like they want to cross the north side again, and closing tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I do think that the bulls are on the clock here, and they are on parade, and if they want to take the reins and force this baby up to 10.5, that would be pretty... Well, I would think that happens in this next day or two, at the very most. If not by then probably going to take on a different interpretation. But we just went over the sort of critical areas for the 4-hour. But what if we were to do this on a 12-hour? Well, I think the 12-hour is just as easy as well, actually. In fact, using the last prior high right here at 99.79, If there's even a tick above that, I would look for continuation, probably to the 10.4, 10.5 target. Technically speaking, though, you'd want to be looking at your prior high. Yes, I get that. Blah 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 blah. For the more conservative traders, they will wait for that 10,085 tick right there. Fair enough. And also on a daily, same areas essentially. So I'm looking at this as still more or less fine. And if Bitcoin can just maintain these next lower term time frame closures above the aforementioned levels, which I believe was about 9,700 to 9,750, then it still remains in that bullish bias. And I do think that we're setting up for a move probably around the time that traditional markets open, around 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Judging by the historic volatility percentile reads on a lot of these things, of course, it's terrible to give out like timing for these sorts of things because I don't really believe in it myself. But adding up all the puzzle pieces together, Bitcoin is very likely looking at a big move sooner rather than later. And the way that things are setting up, as well as trend, as well as momentum oscillators, as well as moving averages, looks more or less good to me. And I believe that there's also a regular moving average death cross as well, not just a exponential, but fair enough, cool. Anyways, okay, what else we want to look at? I do want to make this quick as well. I need to get back to yelling at my computer. It's really good, man. Looking at NASDAQ futures, yes, we did see the move that we were looking for yesterday. Did hit the target. It did hit the first target about 94, a little bit above 9,400, and I do think that this is actually still bullish, and I'd remain bullish on it as long as it is on a daily closing or above a daily closing basis of 9150-ish region. Looks completely fine to me. Actually looks like it wants to have another drive to the upside, to be honest with you. Yes, it did fill a gap, so maybe it does pull back down here a little bit, but I'd still be giving it the benefit of the doubt as long as it's above that 9150-ish pivot. I'd still give it the benefit of the doubt. You never know. Looking at E-mini futures for SPY, kind of wedging itself in this area as well. We did hit our target yesterday at 2950, 300-ish region, of which I do think, well, this one's certainly not looking as strong as NASDAQ. So NASDAQ leads, and SPY is following right now. Technically speaking, we do have a breakout out of the presumed symmetrical triangle right here, which actually did initiate a measure move all the way up to about 310 to 313-ish region. But that comes with the assumption that we do not, or sorry, not the assumption. Assumptions are terrible things to have, but that comes with the counter balance that as long Bitcoin must maintain, or sorry, Bitcoin. Oh my God. The virus is spreading into me, man. It's terrible. Or maybe it's really good. Who knows? SPY needs to close above about 290 to maintain that posturing. And if it does not, then it'll be considered a rejection of the 200 exponential moving average right here, and I'd probably be looking for a move back down to 2850-ish region. But looking at momentum oscillators, I do think that it's going to take that next leg to the upside. I would still remain overall bullish on this. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. But looking at gold, what do we see here? Looks good still. I still think 1800 plus looks fine to me. As I've been saying, yesterday was an opportunity to get in on that pullback, I do think, and I'd still be holding on to that, and I do think that this one still is a little bit more upside. There is a measure move to be made here as well, although I think at this point, it's just higher time frame levels, which are actually still a little bit more north, which pretty much are right around the last prior high, about right at 1800 actually. So I would be looking for a move there still. Kind of interesting to see gold and everything else rally in lockstep right now, but that just shows that we're all connected, my friends, and that's your positive message for the day. We're all one. We are all part of this universe, and we are all the same. And I actually do kind of believe that, but in trading it's a little bit different. Anyways, looking at Litecoin right here, what do we see? Litecoin actually kind of pulling through a little bit, even though if I were to just look at Litecoin's chart without knowing anything about Bitcoin or anything else in this market, I would say that this is a very ugly chart destined for the dead heartbeat of doom. However, Bitcoin pulling through here is going to bode well for about all of the crypto market. Of course, versus US dollar, most likely, but probably not versus Satoshis, which we can look at a little bit later. Mr. Buterin getting the holiday long signal on the weekly jewel right there, and more importantly, looking like it wants continuation as well. I still think Mr. Buterin probably back up to 240, 250-ish region. That's a very good reaction and still maintaining the trend. I mean, that's really all that it has to be right now. All major moving averages trading above, all lower periods trading above higher periods on major moving averages. Historical volatility percentile on the daily as well is very contracted, but still some more to go. So I do think that we're playing out something like this, and we're looking for a resolution on the whole somewhere around here, middle of June. So about another month from now, a little bit less than a month. And that's going to probably or very, very likely employ either a breakdown below 184, which I think is a little bit less likely, or a move probably back up to $300 plus. Real art, fake brands, fake bands. What's up, man? Good to meet you. I like some real art, and I don't like fake bands. Fuck them. Welcome to Krown's Crypto Cave. Okay, what else do we want to look at? I think that's pretty much it for that. Hey, what's going on there? I don't remember putting an alert for that. All right, I wonder what I was going after. Anyways, looking at Bitcoin right here, is it even getting poised for a move right now? Ooh, it could be. I want to see some girthy green dildos in my face, all around my mouth and eye holes. Wait, what? The fuck did I just hear? I'm turning off this Krown Crypto Cave guy. He's stupid. Well, if you say things like that, then yes, you'd be correct. And it's all me, baby. It's all me. Anyways, I didn't even talk about the resistance that we're at right now. 618 Fibonacci. You already fucking know. You already know. 618 Fibonacci retracement. Blah 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 blah. It's also the $14,000 descending trend line. It's been tested 7 or 8 times now. Big meltdown from 10,000 to 4,400 right here. Also liquid zone from major rejection at 10.5 a couple months prior to that in October. And I think that is that. Elsa just woke up and she looks happy. So that's cool. Anyways, let's go back to the lower term time frames, wrap this bitch up and send her off. Again, still 4-hour close above 9,900 or just a move above 9,970-ish region on BitMexico. And I do think that we will see that next move up to 10.4, 10.5. That's where the next big test happens. While I do think that ultimately if Bitcoin even gets that, then definitely Bitcoin probably pull back on lower. Oh my God. I'm speaking like Justin Sun right now, man. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's a robot voice. How come robots don't get mad when you talk about in a robot voice? Any sort of move above this prior high right here or daily closure above like 10.4, 10.5, and I'm looking for extension to 11.5 overall. That's the next macro area. Yes, you know this. To the downside, a little bit more interesting now just because the levels are more well defined. Great English right now. Great fucking English. Below 9,500, that's a short-term warning. Below 9,300, that's a medium-term warning. Below 9,100, that's when I start to get bearish for another $1,500 move to the downside. So that's going to do it for right now. I want to wish you well once again. We didn't even look at probabilities. Do you want to look at probabilities? We'll look at probabilities. Okay, on the next daily total close, we got a almost 33% chance to close above 10,000. Nice. By the same token, to the downside below 9,300, which is admittedly, that is going to be a big area. Probably does get the ultimate downside, but really, realistically, it should be 9,100, which I'll put in right now. But just for 9,300 is about half that percentage at 16 3/4. Let's do 9,100. Yeah, there we go. 8.5% for that one. And are we on future? We are on future. Let's go to current. On the current bar, 33% or 33.25% versus 8%. On a 12-hour current one, so on the next closure in about 5 hours 49 minutes, it would be 27.43% for the $10,000 level, 2.25% for the 9,100-ish level. And what about on the next 4-hour dildo closure in 1 hour 49 minutes and 2 seconds would show 4.77% to the upside and 0 to the downside. Well, that's not really relevant for that. We could use 9,500. That's not really fair. It's not really fair to the bearers there. Sir? Yeah, 7.61% for the downside below 9,500, but that's only for the short term, so fair enough. If you were to look at the same levels for the 12-hour, which, that's not, 12-hour 9,500 is not relevant. 12-hour 9,300 is relevant. And daily, same area. Destroys the higher low structure. Yeah, 8% on the 12-hour. And on the daily, 16.5%. So still very, very similar. I do want to look at the slope of the rings, which we should use for future bars. And what do we see here? Same. So yeah, still squeezing the upside. I do think that bulls have their chance like right here, right now. And I do think that if bulls are going to take the reins and we see that next move to 10.5 and very likely after that 11.5, I do think that it happens probably in this next week of trading, probably sooner rather than later, even today. Failure to do it today would call into serious question what Bitcoin's doing here. Although I really don't like giving time constraints on that. It's just not right to do. And I don't trade that way, to be honest with you. But I would say that would be, it's been setting up here for a few days. It's got a nice structure, and all you got to do is just push it into its little home. Alrighty, that's it for right now. I'm going to be signing off. Take care, and until next time.